Hey, everybody, Kevin here with Pursuing Pixels, and welcome back to another edition of Save It for the Cast. And as always, we're going to get to the chit-chat here in just a little bit, and this is another conversation from that long conversation that Randall and I had probably over a month ago now at this point, but there was just so much video game chat and just like... Yeah, we're a little bit all over the map per usual with the Save It for the Cast stuff, but yeah, we dug into all sorts of retro games, stuff from the Itch.io bundle for racial justice and equality, Lost Vikings, just all sorts of gaming nonsense, or not nonsense, really fun gaming conversation, and just conversation in general. So we'll get to that in just a sec, but as always, I want to kick things off with a few things that I've been playing lately. And yeah, I've been doing a bunch of streaming as of late, mostly just kind of winging it. And there's a bunch of our pals in the indie game collective were chatting about the Steam Next Fest demos. And I'm usually not much of a demo guy. I don't need to like check out, especially if it's something I know I want to play. I'm like, okay, I know I want to play this. Like there's like, even we talked about the Kirby and the Forgotten Land demo on the podcast. It's like, I just knew I was going to play that game. So no real reason to fire up that demo because I know I'm going to buy it, and why spoil some of the experience for me. But when it's stuff that I just have like been seeing these games pop up on Twitter or different social media or just even on Steam or Itch.io or whatever, I was like, okay, I'm down to dig into some of these, and some that I was just discovering for the first time. But one that I wanted to dive into right away was called Rog Roll, like rock and roll, but Rog, R-O-G. But it's a really cool kind of like 16-bit, almost like between 8-bit and 16-bit, like side-scrolling platformer. I guess closer to Super Nintendo style, and it's like visuals and everything. But it's also like kind of 3D at the same time, but only in the sense like it's still a fully 2D side-scrolling platformer. Which with pretty basic abilities, at least what I played so far, it's got kind of a hop and bop, you're just running around jumping on enemies, and you can do a little roll kind of Donkey Kong Country style. And yeah, just really like fluid, expressive platforming mechanics, and it's just got such great music, such great style. I just played a few levels, and it was one of those situations where I was like, yep, okay, I'm all about this. I like what I see, like, shut it down pretty quickly because it was just awesome. But yeah, on that same stream, I ended up jumping over to another game called Frogun, which is kind of like a PS1, N64 era 3D platformer. Another one that I've been just seeing little clips and snippets of for a long time that I've been really wanting to get my hands on. And that one actually kind of really caught me by surprise because the more I had seen it, I was like, these are looking like kind of smaller, like diorama, puzzly levels. And not that that's a bad thing, but I was like, I was kind of hoping for a more like platformery kind of game. And yeah, but even in the couple of levels I played in the demo, I probably played like 3, 4, maybe 5 levels. Like the levels were getting pretty expansive. The platforming was really expressive. You basically just have this like frog gun thing for a hand, and you can either grab like objects and then spit them out and chuck them across the room, or chuck them across the environment at enemies or whatever. And you can grab enemies as well, but you can also like use your tongue kind of like a grappling hook and like grapple onto a wall and pull yourself across a gap or whatever. There's just tons of cool stuff, and I can only assume it's just going to add more mechanics as things go on in more environments. And I guess one more that I checked out, a couple more actually, another one that I hadn't even heard of until just scrolling through the Steam Next Fest list, was a Shinobi Non Grata, and it's like a side-scrolling, almost like a boss rush arcade like beat 'em up, but side-scrolling in the sense that like it's a 2D side-scrolling platformer. You don't have that kind of 3D sense of depth like you do in a beat 'em up. Like I've been playing a little bit of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge game, so yeah, you don't have that 3D depth like you do in a beat 'em up, but it kind of plays more like a beat 'em up where you just have your set of moves, you have a few specials, but it's just got stunning pixel art. Like it's amazing. The music's amazing. Really kind of like it seems like it's kind of going for that true 8-bit aesthetic, but at the same time going like full widescreen. There's definitely some like extra like particle-y effects or something going on with like the flames. Like it's just a stunning looking game, but the combat is just so satisfying. It's like the reason I kind of call it more of a boss rush, there is like a stage kind of beforehand, but it feels more like kind of Gunstar Heroes-y, where you're just plowing down these like popcorn enemies. I guess some of the Gunstar Heroes stages are a little bit tough, but you're just kind of like running to the right. Every enemy dies in like one hit for the most part, maybe two, and then there's kind of like a little like bell that you have to like slash open, and then you like enter the boss zone. And yeah, I made it to what I think was the final boss of the demo, but didn't stand the chance. But that was another one where I was like, oh, I'm very into this. And even if it was honestly just like a almost like an auto runner or like a high score chasing arcade game, it would almost be good enough for me. But the fact that there's like a level progression and just like, I'm assuming it's just going to kind of ramp things up. Just was really blown away by that one. And then the other one that I wasn't going to mention Shinobi Non Grata, but I was like, I got to mention that game real quick. But the one I wanted to wrap up with for the demos here is a game called Frogue. And that's like Rogue and Frog just smashed together. And this is a really cool game. We've talked about a couple of the developers' games in the past, or at least I know I've talked about Raven's Hike on the podcast in the past, but the developer has also worked on a game called Red Ronin. There's a few other games. They have another game in the works called Undergrave. So Frogue and Undergrave. I think I might have even talked about Undergrave on the podcast. They're both roguelike games, Frogue and Undergrave, not to make this extra confusing, but just to talk about Frogue here. Again, it's kind of like a side-scrolling 2D platformer, turn-based tactics, Super Hot meets Dandara meets turn-based tactics. I guess I couldn't think of another game to smash in there. But you basically have like these throwing knives that you start with just one, but you can get upgrades and get more of those. And you're basically like every time you have like a limited amount of like range that you can like jump with your frog character, and you can either stick to the walls, stick to the ceiling, stick to like every room or every floor or whatever of the dungeon, because it is like a kind of traditional roguelike progression in the demo here at least. You're basically moving along and there's a single room, there's a bunch of enemies, you just have to clear all the enemies from the room, and then the door opens up and then you can exit and move on to the next room. And then when you're like every time you make a move, as soon as you make, like when you're traveling to your new destination, either jumping or throwing a knife or whatever, then like the enemies might fire a shot at you and the bullets kind of travel a little bit, but then it freezes while you have your turn. So it is like turn-based, but it really feels like an action game at times as well, especially because you can just move around so quickly. And once you're like, okay, I want to do this, but you can like activate like a bullet time slow-mo mode. So like even when you take your turns, for like a couple turns, maybe 2 or 3 turns, the bullets won't move or the enemies won't make any decisions or anything. It's just an incredible, like I already knew I was excited for this one, and it was actually a demo that I kept playing for quite a while, but I was like, okay, I know I want to get this game, especially knowing the pedigree of the developer, Wired Dreams Games. I think it's Thiago something. I'm drawing a blank on the last name, but Wired Dreams Games. And again, I don't know for sure if that one's coming to Switch, but most of their games so far have made their way to Switch eventually, including Raven's Hike, which just made its way over recently. And I guess actually one more demo, because this was going to tie into what I was going to talk about next, is a new game called Dome Keeper. And this is from Raw Fury, who's probably my favorite indie publisher around. And this is a game that was originally developed, I'm pretty sure it was for the Ludum Dare Game Jam. It might have been Game Maker's Toolkit, but it was called Dome Romantic. And I think it either won or if it didn't win, it was a very highly regarded game in the Game Jam, and it looks like that concept is getting expanded upon. And I don't know if it was the developer that mentioned it or just some random person on Twitter, but somebody said like, hey, check out the Dome Keeper demo. It's kind of like a vertical kingdom. And if you've listened to the podcast in the past or watched any of our videos or whatever, I'm a huge Kingdom fan, whether it's New Lands or Two Crowns or like the new Norse Lands update to Two Crowns. They have that new like 80s version coming out. I don't know if that's going to be DLC or its own game, but I think that's a wonderful comparison for Dome Keeper. Like Vertical Kingdom, it's very much like resource and time management, but you're just kind of like digging down deeper into a tunnel and then protecting your dome at the top of that tunnel, or I guess a cave tunnel, whatever you want to call it. But you're kind of like SteamWorld Dig style. You're like digging down deeper and deeper into the environment, trying to, mine for resources. And then you can spend those resources on either upgrading like your character's speed, like movement, when you're zipping around the mine, or how many resources you can carry at a time, or build a mine. I think this is actually more of like a buff that you unlock, but you can build like a mine shaft that actually you don't have to then carry the resources to the top. You can actually just carry them over to the mine shaft thing and just leave them over there, and they kind of like get attached to these like gravity beam things or whatever. It's a really cool kind of like sci-fi aesthetic. The pixel art and music is amazing. Kind of again with that Kingdom comparison, it's just like the mood and aesthetic is just so good. There was a few things that were like a smidge rough around the edges. Like it seemed like maybe they were like, we got to get this demo out for Steam Next Fest, but not in any like bad way. But and then also like a lot of things that were limited off or gated off in the sense like you could only pick this like laser dome to start as. or to like defend or whatever, but it looked like there were a few other dome types that would then give you like different weapons to defend yourself. And then, yeah, the dome you can upgrade in a bunch of different ways with the different resources along with your character and different perks and upgrades. It's just really cool, really atmospheric. I'm just a sucker for these kind of like slower plotting roguelikes, or at least, yeah, this one's even more of a roguelike than, in particular than like Two Crowns, Kingdom Two Crowns, that is. And I guess to just talk about Kingdom real quick, yeah, we just recently set some monthly milestones on our Patreon and Coffee page. We don't really mention that much on the podcast, but we set some monthly milestones for that. And for all of our monthly supporters, we do votes in our Discord for occasional streams for like, okay, what do you want to see us play? And Kingdom Norse Lands won the most recent poll, or I think it was the most recent poll, at least at the time of recording this. But yeah, I played a bunch of that. I unfortunately got disconnected during the stream, like halfway through. I just ended up having to switch servers, and it's once again just got entirely just sucked into this game. Started a new campaign from scratch, because what I always seem to do is like start up a file either with DJ or with myself, and then pick it up with DJ, and then we like end up just things start falling apart, and I'm like, I could do that a little bit better. I could min-max this, and not that I'm going like full-blown min-max by any stretch of the imagination. But yeah, it was just, I just love that game and series so much. So I just can't get enough. So the fact that there's more Kingdom coming in like the 80s sense, and again, I can just play any version of this game, to be honest. Even New Lands is fine with me. It's even a little bit more satisfying sometimes with the slightly more roguelike structure. But yeah, the fact that there's a Dome Keeper coming down the pipeline, and the fact that it's got that Raw Fury stamp of approval, at least for me, that's like huge. They're one of my favorite indie publishers around, like I was saying earlier. And yeah, otherwise, like I was saying, I'm not going to really talk about it much, but yeah, I have been playing the new Turtles game. I played through about from what I saw online, I think there's 12 levels, and I've played through the first 6, so roughly halfway through the game. But I was just playing by myself, and I was like, I kind of hope I can sync up with either have John, he lives right across the street pretty much, so have him swing over, or Randall and I sync up online, or maybe all three of us, or whatever, maybe even play with some of the folks in the Discord. It's just like, this is just meant, especially because it's not only 4 players, but 6 players. But yeah, it's everything I wanted it to be. It's like giving me all the Turtles in Time nostalgia that I could ever hope for, but at the same time, like adding that, quality of life, layers of improvement and just polish, and the tribute games, like just stunning pixel art. The music's amazing. There's just nothing negative to say about the game. It's absolutely fantastic. And again, the fact that it's available day one on Game Pass, I was just like, okay, no brainer. Let me fire this up, check it out. And yeah, was definitely not disappointed in the slightest. But I think I've gone on for way, way longer than I anticipated here. So I think I'm going to toss things over to Randall and I for the rest of the episode. And yeah. Until then, we will catch y'all next week, and take care. I already I'm enjoying this life of just like only going out to go to the grocery store and like hang out with people and do whatever, and like I can do that back in Michigan,
Yeah, looking for probably more cheaper, a slower pace.
Yeah, and like and especially with like my brothers having a baby, and like being back home with like my cousins and stuff, and like playing games with them, like like my cousins' little kids. So I guess my second cousins, but like like, and he's like, my little cousin Drew is like into it. Did we talk? I feel like we talked about this. I'm having like deja vu.
We talked about you playing with your cousin. For sure, like playing like Switch Online and stuff like that in the past.
Okay, but not like I haven't talked about this last trip when I went back to Michigan. I feel like we talked about this maybe, but I don't know. But he got like the Mega Man Legends collection. My cousin just got like the Legends 2 collect. Like for some reason he got the version that comes with like Mega Man 7, 8, 9, and
10. Yeah.
And like my little cousin, who's like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years old. He's like watching YouTube videos, like walkthroughs. He's like, oh yeah, you got to beat this boss and then beat this boss. And I was like,
can he actually beat those bosses?
We were like chipping away, like we were taking turns. I was way impressed because like last time I played games with him, I think maybe there's one other time in between, but we played like some Yoshi's Woolly World one time. I think it was just the demo, and it was definitely like I was kind of like I was making the progress, and then just like, okay, Drew, come on. And like, we had it on like the no death mode or whatever it is, like the kind of easy mode. And it's just like, I was just kind of waiting for him to, it was more just like letting him enjoy the time with the game. And I was just kind of, a bystander, if you will.
That's a fun game to look at anyway.
Exactly. Crafted World, whichever one it was, but
right.
But either way, yeah, he was like playing and like, definitely like making it through half the stage and like killing some enemies and stuff. And like, but he definitely like whatever video he watched must have talked about like the order you need to kill the robot masters in, because he's like, oh, you got to do, you got to kill Windman and then whoever. I was like, oh, this is impressive, man. Like you're like into this big time. So I don't know. It kind of took me back to like, even though we didn't like watch them on YouTube, but like finding like a little secret in Nintendo Power. Or like seeing like the whole map and you're like, oh, like there's like when they'd have like those whole spread layouts. It's like, oh man, yeah, he's like kind of reliving that in a, totally different generation or era or whatever. But
9 and 10 in particular, those are good games.
Yeah, and it was we were playing 7, I think. It was either 7 or 8.
The Nintendo. 7 was Super Nintendo. 8 was PlayStation and Saturn.
I believe so, and it might have even been Super Nintendo as well. But I don't think so. I don't think so. But for some reason, I feel like I've seen that cartridge. But I might be thinking of 7. But it was pretty cool. The jump feels a little odd in Mega Man 7. I'll say, like it feels a little. Maybe it was just It wasn't, because I know I complained about that with those Mega Man Legends, like the little like bit of laggy input delay that's like a little off. So maybe that is what it was, but it felt like overly odd. Like I really had to like really, really think about it. Where like in the ones that I like the NES games, I sort of remember being like, okay, it takes a second and I don't love it, but like I can kind of get used to it.
Oof.
Where this was like, oh man, I really have to make these jumps like deliberate. But it was still fun. It's a cool looking game.
It is. Oh yeah, it's a pretty game. I think the consensus is like the Mega Man X games are definitely better than Mega Man 7 is on Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I would agree with that from the little bit I've played.
Yeah.
Just having that like dash mechanic in Mega Man X like just feels like such a snappier game.
Oh yeah.
But they're also I'd say way fucking harder. I only had Mega Man X4 growing up.
Wow.
For whatever reason, that was the one my brother had on PlayStation.
X4. Nice.
And I don't know if I ever beat a stage on that game. Like I probably did over the years because we would play that game quite a bit. But I remember making it to the bosses, but just being like, God damn, man, these are brutal.
I have the X collection. X4 was the first one that you could play as the red person.
Zero,
with the saber, right?
Yeah,
like
I believe
from the
so.
start. Like
I believe so. Because I'm pretty sure I remember, being like, well, maybe I'm better with Zero. Oh, no, maybe I'm better with Mega Man.
Yeah.
Man, those games are good though.
Yeah,
those games are good.
Yeah,
and I don't always love that like kind of mech anime style, but it works for the Mega Man X games. Like,
and
works
when it's in sprite
really well.
art, it's kind of a different story at that point.
Yeah, that's totally true.
Yeah.
Because I don't always love the hand-drawn animated games. Like every now and then something comes along like Gree or something like that where you're like, oh, this is a beautiful like work of art regardless of whether it's a game or not. But like for the most part, like some of those hand-drawn games, like the feel of the movement and the animations, like they just don't match up well and they just end up feeling like, I think that's kind of where Hollow Knight doesn't quite click for me. Like I know that like, obviously that game looks great and has great animation and this and that, but it just for whatever reason, it just doesn't click in my brain where it's just like, this just feels weird. I can't get in the groove.
That's always been an issue ever since Prince of Persia,
that's a good point.
Visuals over gameplay to some degree. That's always been an issue.
I'm trying to think. There was a game I played somewhat recently. I think it was just a demo, so it might still be coming like a full version of it. Although I think it was more like a prototype. Like they were trying to like maybe develop it more.
Yeah.
But I think it was called Black Resin. But it was like kind of a game that played like that, where it had like really deliberate movement.
Yeah.
And there was another game called Oh Geez, Oh No, My Bunnies Are Gone, or My Rabbits Are Gone, or something. That also works like that. But but it has like the way they build the game out in more of like, you can tell the levels are like built, and I guess it probably was like this in Prince of Persia too, but it's like, you can tell there's like a grid or like a tile system to everything. And actually that, Oh geez, oh no, my rabbits are gone or whatever game actually like shows like a little, like you can turn it off if you want, but it shows like the little like almost like a meter that would show like where your golf shot's going to go in a golf game.
Yeah,
like it shows like a little dotted line, like, okay, this is where your jump's going to go. And if you're running, this is like how far, like this is how much further you're going to go. So
that's good.
It is like, again, you can turn it off. Like I had it on at first and then I kind of got used to, okay, that's how big the gap is. Okay. You get used to the feel of like, okay, this is the run gap. This is the walk gap.
Yeah.
And again, you can leave it on if you want, but I was like that. And it's just like a really subtle, and it worked really well with the art style of the game too. It just kept like this really soft, like that's an awesome game actually, to be honest. I need to go back to that one. Like really clever, crafty puzzles. Like it's a puzzle platformer, but really focused on the like exploration aspect of the platforming and the puzzle solving. Like
What'd you play
really
it on?
Cool game. I think it was in one of the Itch.io bundles.
Oh, okay.
It was on PC. I'm pretty sure it was in the bundle for racial justice and equality because it was one of the early ones that I like dove into.
Yeah.
And it felt pretty big. Like I played like a good hour or so, and I was like, man, there's still plenty more to this game. It feels. So.
Yeah. Well, before you escape Chicago, I should visit you out there. You and John in particular.
Oh yeah, especially because we literally live like right across.
It would be really stupid not to do that. So.
Well, that was one of the reasons I reached out to Saul and Gus and those guys, because I was like, I don't want to lose my connection to Chicago. So I was like, what if I like came into town once a month and did your guys' inventory at both restaurants and maybe all three if they open up a new one, and like stayed for 3-4 days or whatever and took a bunch of pictures and then from home, like, you know, you guys kind of the stuff you were talking about, like get things more organized. Like you guys could just scan in your invoices and then I'll keep everything organized on the back end.
Digital.
Do all the invoicing and all the, costing and, cost analysis and all that stuff.
Yep.
I was all the stuff that like, I basically was like all the stuff that you always used to want us to do, but like I'd never had time to do because I was bartending and managing and doing this and that. Is like, I can give you an inventory, but I can't like break it down like you want. I was like, I could do that now. So I like basically was like, hey, if you guys like, no pressure, but if there's like, if you can come up with a list of stuff, like I would love to not cut all ties from Chicago.
Right.
So I'm kind of waiting to hear back from them on that.
Yeah. Let me be like your fiscal analyst or something, you know?
Exactly. Like I'll be like an accountant. I'll do payroll. I'll do like a bunch of the stuff that like basically Joel has to deal with, I'm sure, by himself. But like, it's just like, man, what can I take off your plate? It could even maybe be a part-time thing. Like I was like, cause if I'm like my cost of living, I'm assuming would come down in Michigan from here in Chicago. Yeah. You never know, but, theoretically it could. And it's like, I was like, I'm not really looking to like get rich with this fantasy job I just made up. You know, I was like, I just looking to like have health insurance and pay the bills. So. And, it'd be cool to keep it because those guys are like family friends too. But I'm thinking like by the end of the year, I'm thinking I would probably move. So I'm not in a huge hurry, but, and I'm not like putting any like time stamp on, like my parents are like, oh, you said October, I'm like,
oh my God,
I'm not saying any time limit. I was like, I told my cousin even, I was like, don't tell the kids. I was like, it's not 100%. Like, who knows if I land a job that, who knows what'll end up happening. So I was like, but I'm pretty sure that I'm done living in Chicago. I've been saying that for a while. So
right, yeah, no, I definitely know that too.
Just
that's like okay, that's chapters end, new ones start. That's totally fine. But
I like again, like with John and the music stuff. Sure, like, it's like, man, I'd really like to keep some ties here in Chicago. So
right,
because I would then like if I moved back home, I'd probably like. Maybe not split it in half, but I'd like live like, within an hour of where my family lives and stuff, but closer to Chicago. So it's, now it's only like a 3.5-4 hour drive. And that making that trip once a month, not so bad. I don't think. And be, especially if I got to come and see friends and, whatever. It'd be work too, obviously, but.
Could take the Amtrak potentially.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe they'll build a bullet train one of these days.
Hell yeah.
One of these days.
No, that's I'm going to go to they're doing Portland Retro Gaming Expo again this year finally. So they just announced it and put dates out there in October. So I already booked a hotel and got my ticket. So I'm like
October.
I looked at it, and because Google Maps like keeps track of my entire life, it said you last visited this in 2016. I'm like, oh shit, it's been that long, huh?
Damn, yeah. I almost like in my head, like 2016 doesn't sound that long ago, but it's like, that was 6 years ago.
6 years.
And yeah, that's funny you say that because I was talking to John too, because like obviously our buddy Glenn moved out there not too long ago, and I was saying like, hey, before I like move back home and start working again or whatever, depending on how the situation goes, I was like, it might be cool to like take a trip out to Seattle, and we had talked about like, maybe we could sync it up with like PAX West or something. But either the Retro Expo or PAX or whatever, or anytime. It doesn't necessarily have to be that, but that was just like, oh, here'd be like a double excuse, and like we could go see. My cousin Angie also lives out there.
Oh, cool.
I think I forget what area she's in, but she's like in a slightly different area, but it's still like between Randall and Glenn and my cousin Angie. It's like, I definitely, especially before I start working and before I move back or whatever, I'd be like, oh, that'd be a no-brainer to like do this before I start up a new thing.
Yeah. Anytime you and John, or however you want to handle that. We have this split level house with a like complete finished downstairs, and that's where people stay when they visit, and it's like you basically get your own like mini apartment basically. Like it's
heck yeah. Well, I appreciate that offer for sure. That would be awesome, because obviously we could get a place and split it too if like John and I and Lauren came or something,
right?
But that would be cool. I think like
Lauren could stay here too though, ultimately. That's fine.
Yeah, I think like, because I think like you and, well, obviously you already get along with John, but like I think like it'd be cool to just meet, obviously, but like I think like Tina would also get along really well with John and Lauren. Like I don't know, I think it would be cool, definitely be cool. And like same thing with our buddy Glenn was like we kind of moved, like we got a bigger apartment because we wanted to encourage our friends to come visit us and stuff. So I know they've got like plenty of room, and he kind of offered up the same. So even if we like split up, okay, you guys stay, so we're not overwhelming any one person with company or whatever, but it'd be cool because it would also be cool to introduce you to Glenn and his girlfriend or partner Becky.
I know, because they've already been out here for a little while at this point.
I think 4 or 5 months, and I think you guys would get along with them really well as well. Glenn's
if they are y'all's friends, then that vouches for a lot in the first place, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, Glenn's definitely like of the friends I've had here in Chicago, definitely the person I probably got like the closest with over like the band stuff.
Yeah.
And like we would always just be like, for whatever reason, like him and I would drive to shows together, and Mikey and John would drive together. Like for whatever, almost every now and then we'd be like Glenn would just be like, I'm going to drive with Mikey this time. I feel bad. It's, we never drive together, but it was weird how we were like kind of ritualistic with that stuff. Just like, oh, you're coming with me. Like it was like just unspoken, but yep, you're with me, right?
Mm-hmm. No, that would be dope too. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And I think he would be interested in either of those like expos as well.
I don't know if there used to be a Seattle Retro Gaming Expo, and I think that might have just flat out died. Let me look.
I wouldn't be too, especially if they have other ones if they have other festivals like PAX and stuff, and then if the Portland one is so big,
the Portland one you've been to, is the biggest one practically in the country. The Midwest gaming one in Wisconsin is pretty damn big too, but
is that Portland the one that they kind of go into like the arcade stuff too? Like they have a big arcade thing.
Portland does too at this point. Both of them do, I think.
Yeah. I guess that stuff's coming back, man.
Yeah.
Or been back for a long time, but
it looks like the Seattle one might be done.
Dunzo, Corleone,
or at least for now.
Yeah,
maybe not.
Yeah, I gotta think. Yeah, any of the like non-major events, like if you weren't PAX or one of the huge ones, it's got to be hard to come back after COVID.
Yeah, that's that. Oof, yeah. The website talks about Seattle Retro Gaming Expo 2014. So that's
man. Before we even went to Portland,
which I think I went to that Seattle Retro Gaming Expo, and now I'm getting very old.
Were you living out there by then?
Yeah, we moved it to Washington State February 2013.
Okay, dang.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah, 10 years almost.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah. It's even when I think I moved here to Chicago in like 2008 or something.
Yeah. You moved to Chicago way before we moved out of Michigan.
Yeah. It was like, I know I graduated high school in 2005, and I did I think I did like 2 years of just like random college stuff, 2.5 years or something. And then I was like, okay, and I'm moving.
Although you would always be driving out to Michigan. So, oh, sweet. Kevin's back in town.
get those gaming sessions in.
Yeah.
Play like fall asleep driving home after playing like 7 hours playing Lost Vikings. I remember like on the way driving home playing Lost Vikings, I had to like roll the windows down and like it was like 7 a.m. I remember you guys like Tina was like, just stay here. And I'm like, no, I didn't tell my parents I was spending the night and like they're not going to be up, so like I can't text them and tell them. And so I would drive home and like I remember one time just like windows down, it was like winter, so windows down, like freezing.
Yeah,
just,
that
like,
does help.
I get because like when you have the heat on, and if you're tired and driving and obviously it's dark,
that's too
just
comfy.
Like, start zonking out, man. You just get in this weird zone, or I do.
Yep. You almost died, but we did beat the Lost Vikings, so
worth it.
Yeah,
worth it. It wouldn't have been worth it. Wouldn't have been worth it for Lost Vikings 2, but for Lost Vikings 1, worth it. And not that Lost Vikings 2 is bad, but I remember we were just kind of like, we're not going to beat this game, right? Yeah, no.
It just I don't know why it just didn't click the same way.
It definitely, the visuals I'm not as into.
Oh,
like they really kind of switched up how things looked.
Because I know, because Lost Vikings 2 was Norse by Northwest, I want to say something.
Yeah.
And that was like a CGI 3D thing on Saturn and PlayStation, I want to say. But I think it was still sprite art on Super Nintendo, was it not?
I don't remember. I just remember it like had like an uglier look. Like it had like a little more tood to it, But I know what you mean. I do remember that kind of 3D kind of pre-rendered look to the game. I can't remember how it looked exactly on the Super Nintendo, but that is the version I have.
Yeah.
But I just remember like, and maybe it was just like that we played it like too quickly. I know it wasn't like back to back, but it might have been like, oh man, okay, it's not quite as good as the first one. And like, I hold up that first one pretty high.
Oh yeah,
in pretty high regard on the Super Nintendo. So
I remember like we had that experience, and then I'm like, okay, this cartridge is a little bit more, which it probably was like freaking like $40 tops. And I'm like, it's a little more expensive than other retro games, but I'm gonna get it because we had such a good time.
Yeah. Gotta have that in my collection.
Yeah.
I think Lost Vikings 2 is one of the very few games I bought it. Like, I forget the name of this store, but now that I drive in Chicago and have a car in Chicago, it's like, it doesn't seem that far away, but I remember taking the blue line and the bus and like making all these transfers.
Oh, yeah.
It took me forever to get to this place.
I would do it too.
And then it was the shittiest retro store I've ever been to. Like, nothing organized at all.
Well,
like,
sometimes that's not so bad though if they're also behind on their pricing and they don't know what they have necessarily.
Not the case. Like I'm talking like pretty much just like shelves full of like Super Scope games.
Yeah.
Like they're just the shittiest games, like it's all like terrible
Joe
condition.
Montana's
like
Football 92 and
and tons of stuff like sun bleached in the window. Just
yeah, of course.
Oh, like what are you guys doing, man?
Definitely
like,
that.
And like nobody, like again, like you're going into a retro store to buy retro games. Like I think they have modern stuff too, but like semi-current stuff. But like it's obviously like a hobby store. You would think the people working there are probably interested in games as well. Like any other time I go to like a retro shop, usually like you get greeted or something, like, hey, or like they see what you're looking at and you start talking random games with them or whatever. Like just didn't even say a word when like I walked in. Like it was just the most unwelcoming place I've ever been to. I hated that place. I went there a couple times thinking like had to be a fluke because like I found it online. Like people were talking about it, said it was like halfway decent. So I was like, Lost Vikings 2 is the only game I ever found there worth a damn.
Well, that's not so bad though. If you got that for a decent price, that's
worth the trek in the story about a shitty shop.
Although, so many of those shitty shops like will let their like these games are assets. There's only so many of them around, and you're letting them get sun bleached to hell. Yeah, like what are you doing? What are you doing?
In fairness, at least it was like in the front, it was like GameCube and PlayStation 2. Like it was that era of games that was getting the sun bleach action.
Yeah, but little did they know, like the GameCube games would be worth freaking diamonds too.
Right.
Some of the PlayStation 2 games too.
You never know. You never know what you got. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's so random. Even like random DVDs and Blu-rays are worth like a fortune.
Yeah.
Like somebody was like, I always make sure, I can't remember where it was, but like I always make sure to like scan the barcode on whatever app.
True.
That like before I like get rid of something and like donate it or just sell it randomly. Cause like, you never know if you just have like some random out of print edition of something that like is weirdly sought after by collectors. So
especially these days.
Yeah. And that stuff just keeps skyrocketing, man.
This is something we can actually talk about either on a save it or otherwise, but like beyond the retro homebrew releases, all of these like retro re-releases is totally a thing too these days.
Yeah. Especially when they're getting like, with like the Sonic thing and the even like Turtles collection.
There's that stuff, but there's also like they've like re-released before. Last year it was like they re-released Zombies Ate My Neighbors in like new cartridge manufacturing, like that sort of thing is happening.
Okay,
a lot more than it ever was before.
I thought you were talking about that because there's like that Zombies Ate My Neighbors like sequel,
Ghoul Patrol, which they also re-released, and I also grabbed on pre-order, even though I've heard it's not nearly as good.
Yeah, I heard it wasn't quite as good, but I thought it came with both games. I could be wrong, but I thought the Switch version at least was like a bundle.
Yeah, the Switch one is both, but when you buy the cartridges, you get them separately.
I see. So, okay, I didn't know that I didn't know. Actually, I had no idea. I know you've mentioned a couple random like reproduction carts that you've grabbed over the years.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that like, so this is like official, like LucasArts stamped.
Signed
off on the rights.
Yeah,
or
like Limited Run went out and like gathered the rights for all these things to manufacture more Super Nintendo cartridges.
Oh, they're through Limited Run.
Yeah.
Oh, dang, man.
So Limited Run is doing that. Strictly Limited is doing that.
Dang.
Yeah, it's become its own like cottage industry of like official retro re-releases, like not reproductions without the licensing. And well, I guess I can just get into it now. Another example of that, like effective tomorrow as of this recording, is the NES version of Battletoads and Double Dragon for NES is going to be released again. Like you can do Limited Run or Castlemania Games or Strictly Limited. And yeah, it's just like a whole new NES cartridge because like most games that came out in those days, like just crazy expensive. But this is like as if I'm buying a new, just officially licensed NES game, in 2022.
That's pretty sweet. And, it's still like if I'm buying something from like a random, like another collector or whatever on eBay, like I don't feel too bad about it. Oh, the money goes to just some random other person, whatever.
Right.
But like, it does feel kind of better to know, like, okay, these people are taking the time to preserve these games, or whatever, however you want to look at it. It's like they're going through the channels, and like somehow I have to imagine that I guess who knows what the contracts are like, but like the people that maybe made the game are getting some cutback. Where like when you buy a used anything, I used to think that when I would go to like record stores and stuff, I'm like, yeah, buy the records, but like a lot of times I just buy a used record, and obviously only the store is seeing that. So,
but then
it's still cool to support a local record store.
Like,
yeah,
that's fine too, right? The store gets that money, and that's cool,
right? But when you're like, just let me buy this online at some random website or whatever, which I guess some of those are their own, small independent stores as well. But yeah, I'm into all these like Limited Run and even Super Rare and all the whether they're getting into the retro stuff or not, but just like. As much as I'm like, I don't know, because how do you feel about? Because I really wanted. Are you familiar with that game Demon Throttle that's coming out? It's like it's made by the people that made Gato Roboto, and it's published by Devolver Digital. But it's like a top-down kind of like those NES run and gun games, like Mercenaries or what is that game called? Like where you're like kind of like a commando, or maybe it's called you're like kind of running and. Top down, or like
what's the NES Western themed?
Oh, I was thinking of the caveman one, Dino Adventures of Dino Ricky. Maybe it is.
That's a good one too. Oh my god, I was just playing this game not that long ago.
And now I forgot the point that I was gonna make.
Well, you were talking about I just Googled Demon Throttle, and one of the top articles is a Nintendo Life thing that's like physical only Switch title Demon Throttle opens up a second chance pre-order. I'm like, oh no, here we go.
Okay, so I didn't even know about that second chance thing, but apparently it's like it's gonna be a physical only game, like it's never gonna be released digitally. Like I feel like that's probably going to change down the line, I feel, but maybe it won't. But that's the one thing I'm like, this artificial scarcity, or not artificial, but it is kind of, if it's if you're just going to say, hey, we're going to print X amount of copies of this game and more people want it, it seems like make more of them then. Like
it's artificial scarcity in that you're not allowing digital sales of it. That's where the artificial scarcity comes from. Like, I understand there's scarcity with physical production and manufacturing. Like, you have to order a batch at a certain amount, and you have to do all the math to justify the upfront costs and all that. But if you're not going to allow it to be sold digitally, yes, you do increase the value proposition of buying physically, and psychos like me will then eyeball it a lot more than they should to buy it.
I know I'm panicking. Like my buddy Paradigm just sent me like a screenshot that he pre-ordered it the other day, and it's only like with shipping or whatever. I forget. I think it came out to like $37.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's not terrible.
No, it's not terrible.
And it looks
for a
awesome.
Switch game.
And I love Gato Roboto.
I know.
Like, I love Gato Roboto, and this game looks
retro
great.
Retro styled,
and it's co-op, and it's
Kevin.
I know, and I want it, but I'm like, I don't need it.
No. It's and never. None of these are a million other
games. Yeah, there's a million other games that I could play and want. And
of course,
that one I'm letting myself hold off. But I know, especially because I know that like Paradigm's going to grab it, and a couple of our other buddies in the indie game collective have been like hyping it up, and I know they pre-ordered it. So it's like I know they're going to be talking about it when it comes out, and I'm going to be super pissed I didn't grab it. So we'll see if I end up ordering it by tonight. I'll
probably grab it, so there'll be another person that'll.
It really looks awesome. I can't. There's like a really great cutscene that they show in like the trailer or something where it's like but it's either how it starts or ends, but it just like zooms up. It's like one of those kind of like Ninja Gaiden cutscenes, like where it's like right on the character's like face, like right in their like kind of their eyes, showing like their facial expression. It's just like that demon just kissed my wife or something like that. It looks like it's going to be a very silly game, especially knowing the humor in Gato Roboto. It's like, this is gonna be good stuff.
Gunsmoke, that was the game I was thinking of.
Why does that sound so familiar? I feel like I've never played that one, but I can picture it.
It's a top down, and you can collect like different gun power ups, like Western style, like going through the Western towns and shooting everything you see, and there's barrels and standard procedure stuff. It's actually one of the games that I first tried out when I was doing all that stuff with the adapters and the arcade sticks. I'm like, oh, this game would be sweet because it basically is an arcade game.
Yeah.
Just on NES.
I like some of those like run and gun.
Yeah.
Like on foot games. Like they're basically just vertical shmups. But
it is. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah. I don't know. I like that. I like that more than when they do like. Obviously it depends on the game, but like more than when they do where you're like flying a ship, but there are enemies on the ground and you have to like juggle, like dropping bombs on the ground and then shooting enemies in the air. Sometimes I love that, but like most of the time I'm like, it's too much to juggle. I just kind of want to play a mindless shoot 'em up.
Funny enough, I kind of I don't mind that sometimes, but I prefer the like shoot in front of you and stuff below more in like a 3D vertical shooter styling than I do necessarily with a 2D scroller.
Like 3D meaning kind of more like Ikaruga style presentation.
Yeah, like Ikaruga, or the example that comes to mind is the game Galactic Attack or Layer Section. That's it's a Saturn game I own, Galactic Attack, and like it does that kind of double. There's like the double perspective where you're shooting ahead, but then you can also kind of like target and shoot things that are on the ground that are shooting up at you too, and it just feels really good.
Yeah, I can't think of what game it is, but I know there is a game that like I'm remembering, like you like whatever button it is, you like hold it down and it like targets the enemies on the ground, and I really like how it feels in that game.
Yeah.
But there's like a few games where I'm like, man, it's just too much shit, and I can't tell if they're on the ground or if they're in the, like some of those like 32-bit like sprites that are like crammed into some of those like Psycho games. It's like I can't like it looks awesome, but I can't tell where they're at. But yeah, I do enjoy a good run and gun shmup.
Oh, they're actually re-releasing Lair Section and Galactic Attack on Switch.
Ooh, nice.
They might have already done it by... Oh, no, it's this month or next month. Yeah. That's...
I know we talk about this like every time, or not every time, but often, but I really pray that the Nintendo game library carries over to whatever their next system is. I really don't think it's going to happen, but unless they really brand it. Well, I guess they did do it with the Wii and the Wii U. So if they do make it kind of like a Switch, did
that do?
Well, at least it worked. Like you could transfer things over. It worked for me. I think I was able to transfer over like my. Whatever, I did that like Pikmin thing
for $1.50 fee. Oh yeah. So
I mean like
the Wii stuff into the Wii mode. Yeah.
Like like if you bought like a WiiWare game, I think it was like on both.
Yes.
But yeah, that is right. Yeah, the Virtual Console didn't carry over.
No.
Unless if you booted in Wii mode.
Yeah.
You could play your stuff still.
You could.
Okay, so yeah. So it like technically was backwards compatible.
It was in a way. They made that work. You're right.
And I guess they did it from like GameCube to Wii. Like they usually do a good job of, but they really haven't had to do like the digital carryover yet. No, they haven't had to do like the storefront carry. They kind of did it with like DSi to 3DS. Like there's some crossover there, and even Wii U, I think a little bit. But like, yeah, this would be like the first time it's like. I guess you do technically have just like a Nintendo account.
Yeah.
So they could.
I mean, there's been multiple versions. They started the Nintendo account thing back in it was like the Wii days, because you would redeem your Nintendo rewards point things from like that was behind the manual, and like
it might have even been the GameCube days, because I feel like some of the used game or like the Player's Choice games I bought at one point, like I feel like had some of those in them, but maybe not.
There were definitely extra inserts with those.
Yeah, it might have just been like those like safety instruction guides or whatever.
Too. Yeah.
Man,
there was
taking me back though.
Yeah.
I haven't kept. I mean, I still enter in my get my points, but I haven't kept up, and I don't buy enough Nintendo games these days to like hit the top tier like I used to always.
No, I've been really lazy about the thing where like if you have the cartridge, you have to like go into the sub menu and redeem the 60 coin thing. I always forget now to do that. Where before, like I was an idiot and opened up all my Wii games to redeem the points, and like if I would have just left a few of those sealed, they would have been worth like quadruple these days. Oh, well.
I should look up what some of my games are worth, because I do want to clean out, like especially if I'm going to move, just like try to unload some stuff.
Yeah.
Especially I feel like I can probably get a little more top dollar when I'm here in Chicago.
Yeah. Although Michigan
just
has a pretty big gaming scene too, for that matter.
That's true. Yeah. But I guess I was just picturing more like, somebody like, I can pick them up,
Right. True. Yeah, definitely true.
I guess I was like my mindset was there because I've been trying to like there's like in one guitar I'm trying to sell, and it's like definitely like, okay, I don't want to ship this thing.
Yeah.
I really would prefer somebody to just buy it here. Like I would shave off plenty of money off of it to not have to deal with shipping it.
That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, that would be a huge pain in the ass.
Yeah. Yeah, somebody asked like about shipping it overseas, and I was like,
"Oh my god,
no! Sorry, pal."
Like,
even for a pedal, it was going to be like $125. I'm like, dude, the pedal, I'm selling the pedal for less than that. So there's no way that's worth it to me or you. So
it could be depending on how rare it is, I suppose. But
I don't think it will. Like I think other than I guess it's like it's rare in the sense it's like a boutique, like handmade kind of one-off thing.
So very rare, like, then, yeah.
but at the same time, it's like from some, there's a million.
Yeah,
they're not like a company that's like sought after, but you never know. It could be down the line. But I don't think it's something that would be like. I just sent the guy a message like, "Hey man, I just sent a screenshot of like what it was going to cost to ship." I was like, "I'm sorry, man.
Yep,
can't do that."
Yep.
But
that's funny.
Shit, man, what do we want to talk about here on this episode tonight?
Yeah, that's a good question. I didn't. I made the false assumption that we would have a couple other boys with us here, and that I know
I did the same. I did the same.
Know better.
I've got tons of stuff that I can rattle off, and like I know I mentioned in the Discord, like we could talk maybe about the Nintendo Switch Online.
Yeah, plan. Like I was kind of thinking when you said that, I'm like, oh, maybe maybe we could talk about what's like currently on there and kind of our impressions of those and kind of what I would recommend out of those in my experience, sort of thing. Like that could work.
Yeah, and like maybe stuff we're like looking forward to on the like some Sega deep cuts or something.
Sure. I could totally, obviously I could riff on that.
Yeah, we could just like dig into that. Otherwise, like I hadn't been playing a ton of games in the last couple days. I did some streams. So I've like been kind of playing like I was playing that Shotgun King game a bunch, which I talked about on Save It for the Cast last week. So I'd probably if I shouted out, like they literally just released the full version of it today because it was originally just for the Ludum Dare Game Jam.
Yeah.
So they just came out with like the full version today. But then I've been playing a bunch of that game Stack Lands, which is like a deck building card game, crafting game, which is really fun. Crown of Pain I've been playing a lot of, which is kind of like a puzzle league style RPG battling game. So I could maybe talk a little about that.
Whoa.
I was playing Peglin, which is earlier today, the demo for that. That's like a roguelike Peggle hybrid.
What?
You're like battling enemies and like shooting different orbs at like Peggle pegs to do damage.
You're hitting very certain niches with me in a number of regards here.
Okay, so maybe I'll just like I'll just pull some of these out because originally I was like, oh, we'll probably talk Kirby and Elden Ring, and then like I was playing a bunch of that Going Under game on Switch, which is like a roguelike. You're like playing at like a tech startup company, and it's got a really good sense of humor. But like the whole game is like all about like everything's kind of destructible, like so it's just like run in, grab it, kind of like that Blood Roots game, like everything's a weapon and pick up, grab this laptop, smash it on top of this goblin,
that is
grab
fun.
a monitor, and there's just all sorts of crazy stuff. So I've been having fun with that. So that was kind of like the game that I was like, okay, we'll probably talk a bunch about Kirby and Elden Ring. And then if we need a little extra filler, or just if we want a little something else, like I'll talk a little bit about Going Under.
We would have legitimately talked about just those two games, and that's what the way I felt. I almost threw it out there. I'm like, Kevin, I don't know that we even need to set like an agenda per se, because those two games alone would be more than enough time.
Oh, definitely.
With
like
the conversation.
Probably could eat, especially with a third or fourth person in the mix. But yeah, it's just like we easily could have riffed on that stuff for quite some time.
Yes.
But yeah, we could do like kind of what I did with Kevin when Kevin Cole and I record. Like I have all these games written down here that we like had on the docket and list and whatever. So like when I recorded with him, I think I got like self-conscious and I didn't want to hammer out like a list because he was just like, "You ready to record?" And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm ready. I just like got nervous and just kind of like I would just like glance over and or maybe I did. Maybe that was with Matt Glanville. Now I can't remember.
Yeah.
But I remember I kept like kind of just glancing over at the list so I could kind of be like, hey, which game would you rather hear about, this or this? And then I could dive into it, and we could just plan on talking about like the Sega and N64 stuff.
Sure. A
little for the Switch Online. And it could just be kind of like a more lax, casual episode. Yeah. Like, hey, what else are you playing? You still playing some Retro Bowl? Or are you still playing, whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we could probably just wing that route. Because, yeah, I could dig into... I could probably just glance off of any combination of those games.
Yeah.
That I mentioned.
I think so too.
And obviously, if you have anything else that you've been playing as well, but...
That's the problem, is like it's been like legitimately exclusively Kirby and Elden Ring.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Like exclusively, like to the point where I still have the Sega Saturn 5-way adapter plus the 3D controller pad plugged in on my floor because I'd been playing Panzer Dragoon Saga, but then like that just full out cold turkey stopped because my time got sucked up by those other two games completely.
That's kind of awesome. Like, when's the last time you had like 3 games in, I don't want to say rotation, but because obviously you said you kind of put Saga on the back burner, but like when's the last time you had like kind of big games like that you were just kind of digging into a little more deeply? Like, I don't know. It's been a while for me, for sure.
A long time. And Saga's on the back burner, but it's still on the stove, right? It's just on the back burner. Like, I'm gonna finish that game.
Yeah.
So, it's just a matter of like, basically it's a matter of just of completing Kirby, because Elden Ring will last forever and ever and ever.
Especially, based on how far DJ seems like he is already. And it's like, dang. And he said he hasn't beaten it yet. And
I know.
But he's a meticulous player. You all are.
Yes.
Like you and John, I'm sure are as well. But like DJ's like, I've never like it's really hard watching DJ play a game. Like I remember watching him play like Uncharted.
Yeah.
And just like tiptoeing through level. Like he's just very cautious and like
Yeah.
You know, he'll play it in a way that like he won't die. He'll never fucking die, but like it's also like, are you even having fun? This does not look like a fun. It's definitely not fun to watch.
Because it's like especially something like Uncharted. It's so like you need to like guns blazing. Just it's big stupid action fun, and your guns blazing, and you're being filled with bullets, but you're Nathan Drake, so it doesn't matter. You just say, "Oh, ouch! Oh, shit!"
Yeah. Oh, let me brush that off. You know, and yeah, DJ's sitting there like what? Just like okay, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna learn the pattern of when these enemies pop their heads up, and then like okay, one at a time. So, like he's very methodical the way he plays games. Like again, yeah, if he finds like a cheap exploit in Dark Souls where he's like, oh, I can hit that dragon all the way from down here if I do this like arcing arrow shot. Like yeah, it might take 700 arrows to kill that dragon from here, but I've got 800. I'm gonna do it. Like he'll do that. Like where I'll be like, oh. I'll like be like, oh, it's cool that you could do that.
Yep.
And then I'll just move on because I'm not going to waste my time. Where DJ's like, oh, okay, I can exploit that.
Yep.
It's pretty funny.
Specifically with games like Dark Souls and Elden Ring, I kind of don't blame him with that because otherwise you just get like the likelihood of you getting smashed in the face and losing quickly is very high. Yeah. So and then you lose your progress to some degree too on top of that.
And from someone who hasn't really played much of those games, but you know, from that perspective, like it does feel like you're kind of like getting one back at the designer of the game. Like, oh, for every time you fucked me over, fuck you. I just took that dragon out like without
in the cheapest way possible. Yes,
when it wasn't even supposed to be like active. It was just supposed to be a little tease scene to like show off the boss that I'm about to have to fight, and I found a way that I can snipe it from over here.
I'm not going to. I'm going to stop talking about this because I wanted to start bringing up comparisons to Breath of the Wild, but this is for a conversation for another day.
Okay,
I'm saving it. Saving it.
Nice. Well, yeah, we probably should get rolling on starting an ep here.
Sure. I like lists though.
Maybe they are fun to look at, especially when a big genesis of like at least for me wanting to do the Pursuing Pixels stuff or like anything when we would talk about doing like blogs and stuff in the past was always like I'm so sick of seeing the same list or the same like games always at the top of those lists. Like I get so excited with somebody's got a new top 100 list and there's Super Mario Brothers or there's Tetris or there's this or there's that. It's like especially with Super Mario Brothers. I know I've said this a million times, but I'm just like, most every other Mario game is better than this game. So it's like, it's definitely pretty objectively. I'm not even being subjective. Like,
no, you're totally much say,
right. At the very least, Mario 3 and Mario World are both better than easily Mario 1 by like a million times.
World's better than Mario. Like, both of those games are heads and tails above Super Mario Brothers.
Like 25 times better or more.
Yes.
Not that you can quantify it, but like at least, but influential, say, of course. Like
it, not even just it is influential, and that's why
like you got to give it number one. Yeah,
but that's like, and I think that's the way that I'll talk about these Genesis games because that's what's more interesting to me, and I know it's what's more interesting to you too. Is like, okay, through a modern lens, a 2022. Onward lens, like I'm firing these games up now. Even if I have nostalgia, like that diminishes pretty quickly when you're actually playing the thing, right? What is good to play right now? What's interesting to play right now? What are the best games? Like throw influential, throw nostalgia and what you played when you were 8 out the fucking window. Like I said in a previous podcast, the original Ninja Turtles on NES, I'm sorry to say, is not a very good game. I understand everybody had a copy of it. That doesn't make it good.
I think what I'll give it is like it sets a good in like the sense of adventure and like environment and like it really feels like a pretty grand adventure of a game.
Yeah,
but
if you can make it far enough.
If you can get past the dam. I don't think I've ever made it past that section.
Like, there's hard levels before you even get to that point.
Exactly. Yeah, and then it's like,
and
I'm
it's
usually down to
hard. It's not usually like well designed hard.
Yeah, it's like very rigid. It's a very rigid game from what I recall. But like again, I was such a diehard Turtles fan. But yeah, I would get to the dam with like only Michelangelo and be like, shit, what do I do here?
God,
literally can't move anywhere. Because you're losing Donatello first.
Yeah,
because he's got the most range.
Leonardo is the next best option,
and then you're fucked.
Screwed.
Then you're fucked.
Yeah,
no
then it's
range.
over.
Yeah,
I'm excited. You're just waving your stupid nunchuck like 2 inches in front of your face and trying to kill people.
Yeah, terrible. That and the sigh. The sigh's even worse.
Yes, cooler but worse. But no, I like Super Mario Brothers. Like that was another game that I didn't necessarily beat when I was a kid, but then I like randomly played it and beat it when I was like, I don't know, 20. And I was like, it's still worth a playthrough from that perspective.
It's not a bad game, yeah.
No, it's not bad. It's just like every Mario game since has been like almost all of them have been incredible on one level or another, besides arguably like Mario Sunshine or something.
Yeah, and it's just kind of fun to see where it all started, kind of. Is kind of really the only reason to play Mario Bros. I like Super Mario Sunshine. The only thing I remember feeling negative about it was just like it ended abruptly. I felt like I was just like, oh, it's over?
Made it that far, huh?
I loved it, man.
You're one of those.
Even at the time, I didn't love it. Like, I'm not a diehard, but I definitely remember when I beat it, I had the feeling of like, man, if this game was just a little bit longer, it would be like easily right on par with Mario 64.
It does have really good vibes. I love the vibes of that game. I'll say that much.
The controls are great. Like, it feels great from what I remember.
There's a learning curve there with FLUDD and everything, but like, it does feel good. And it's one of those GameCube games that uses the analog triggers fairly effectively too.
Yeah.
So that part is pretty cool, where like to do like the water, like the full water blast instead of the stream, like you had to click down that GameCube.
Yeah, I forgot
trigger.
about that, but yeah.
So like stuff like that is cool. It's just, I don't know. And I don't know if I could really put, maybe it's like they're still working out the camera, or like, I don't know what it was. Maybe it's just like, I prefer more of the kind of Galaxy put me on a path. But then I liked Mario 64 a lot, so I can't even necessarily say that. I don't know. It just didn't click with me as much.
I'm definitely with you where, I usually want to be on the path. Like,